Hi, I'm Ralph Preston. It's Tuesday at 11 a.m. and here we are again doing another Stroke Buddies Stroke Survivor Support Group meeting. And today we have chef and nutritionist, or nutritionist and chef, Karina Hines with us. I met Karina through Angelia Abu Hassan, who is also with us today. And Angelia is studying wellness, and she took a functional nutrition class that Karina was in, and that's how they met. And so Angelia introduced me to Karina, and we invited her to our Nutrition After Stroke group, where she's been a fabulous contributing member for the last month, posting daily recipes and such, and we're thrilled to have her expertise there in the group, and we're thrilled to have her with us today. So, Karina, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got on this journey and where you're headed with all this, and a little bit about your story, and to start us off.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Ralph, and that was a great introduction, and I do appreciate it. I'm Karina Hines. I'm Australian. I am coming to you today live from my own personal kitchen in Portland, Maine. I've been living in America since 2013. My background is I've been a private chef for 20 years. I have always been in the holistic health and wellness world, and what sort of drove me to that was a sort of profound health crisis that I had as a very young teenager. I was probably in my 16 or 17, and I ended up having chronic candida. And the wisdom of my 17-year-oldness took me off to a naturopath. And, I went through a holistic health routine of completely changing my diet and improving my health. So it was an incredibly powerful lesson for a young woman. And, that really, I understood within myself the power of food and the healing power of using food as medicine and the power of plants. And that sort of has been the baseline of my whole career and my whole sort of life path. And, what I study now, and, coming to groups like you and advocating to help people who need to change their diet or want to improve their health using food as medicine, and teaching people how to do that. That's really the space in which I thrive, and which I have a skill set in. I have a online website called Botanical Kitchen, and on Botanical Kitchen there are hundreds of recipes. I also have a membership program that's based around seasonal eating, and all of the recipes and menus that I use focus on a anti-inflammatory diet, because inflammation is the root of all disease, and we're really focusing on using food as medicine. I also believe in using a coarse, sort of sustainable, small amount of ingredients. I believe that everybody, regardless of how much money you do or don't have, has the right to eat healthy, nutritious food. So I use reasonable, sensible, obtainable ingredients that you can buy from every supermarket. I use them in a creative way, and I really focus on the plants that are coming up out of the ground as we move through the seasons. I'm a farmer's daughter from Australia, so my passion piece in this is also, I believe that nutrition begins in the soil. I've studied right to the agricultural level of biodynamics, because that's really how we create nutritious food. So, when we're talking about using food as medicine, when we're talking about improving our health, we also want to be like, well, how are our plants grown? Where is our food coming from? What is the chemical, toxicity of those plants before we even eat it? So really focusing on, food security in local communities, and farmers markets and gardens and CSAs, and how we support that, and how we support our health with that, and how we just kind of create a sustainable, sort of sensible community around food and health and wellness. That is what I do. That is who I am. I'm thrilled to be here. And, this is sort of an exciting group. I've had a nice introduction, and I've been following the group for a while. I personally am not a stroke survivor, but I feel like the information and the education that I have can be really valuable to this community. And some people really would benefit from changing their diet to improve their health. And in this case, within a stroke survivor community, you're struggling with some more challenges than maybe some other communities. And so really focusing on, information and how you can really use food as medicine and looking at that gut brain health connection to really help you on your healing journey. It's a difficult healing journey, I can imagine. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line. And, there's little tiny things that I think you can do every day that I'm going to talk about this morning, to introduce into your life that's fairly simple, that's quite straightforward, that will actually can have a profound impact on how you feel and your recovery process. So I'm going to jump straight in. I'm going to talk a little bit about sugar. I'm going to talk a little about inflammation. And then I'm going to demonstrate some recipes. I'm going to focus on some drinks and some things that you can bring into your morning routine and your diet every day, and how we can replace sugar with other ingredients that are much more nutrient dense. Sort of nutritional bang for your buck is what I'm focused on. Every recipe I write, every thing that I'm going to demonstrate, and everything that I talk about, that's really, it's like nutritional bang for your bite is what you want to do every day. We don't want to be eating anti-nutrients. And when we're talking about sugar, we're talking about an anti-nutrient. So then I'm going to demonstrate some of the recipes. I'm going to focus on drinks. I'm going to focus on some sort of easy breakfasts. I'm going to, Ralph, when he introduced me and was talking to me about this, brought up the fact that there's some people who have limited mobility in the group. And so I've had to really think about that. I'm going to introduce some of my chef tools that I use in the kitchen when I'm working as a chef that might actually be useful to this group. And, I'm going to demonstrate a few different things. And then at the end, I would just love to open it up for questions. I'm here for this community to try and help you. If anyone has any questions, maybe put them in the chat box, and Ralph will ask me as we're going through this, or at the end, we can have a Q&A. But, for this time, this week, where I'm here for you, and, as Ralph mentioned, I'm also on Facebook and making myself available. So sugar. When we talk about sugar, we are talking about inflammation. Sugar causes inflammation. Sugar, and when I'm talking about sugar, let me be clear, I'm talking about refined sugar, cane sugar, coconut sugar, molasses, agave, all the syrups, all of the things. I mean, I am talking to a point about maple syrup and honey. I mean, they're the only two sweet substitutes that I would say have some nutrient density to them. Some of the other syrups do, but generally we're talking about sugar, and it doesn't really matter what it is. It does cause inflammation in the body. And when we have inflammation in the body, we are affecting our joints. We're affecting our immune system. We are affecting our gut health. We're affecting our gut-brain connection. We're really feeding cancer cells. And let me say that one more time. Sugar feeds cancer cells. That's a fact. So really, it's when we're eating sugar, we're also changing our blood sugar balance. So we're getting spikes in our blood sugar balance, which changes our metabolism, which changes our mood, which changes our endocrine system, which affects our adrenals, which affects our mood, which affects our heart. It's an ongoing thing. So everything is connected. So when we put something in our mouth, a chain reaction happens throughout our body. In the case of sugar, sugar is an anti-nutrient. What sugar actually does, there's no nutrient density in sugar. So what sugar actually does is when we take in sugar, it starts to pull, our body has to pull nutrients and minerals and certain things out of our bones and out of our system to try and digest sugar. Sugar is in raw cane sugar, white sugar, that sort of thing. It's like it's not there's no nutrient density to it, there's no fiber in it, there's no nothing in it, and it spikes our glucose. So our body, especially our liver, and our kidneys especially as well, and they're the two areas of our system that are our detoxification filtration system. Those are like, okay, now we've got this blood sugar spike happening in our body. Okay, now we've got to like calm it down. So our body, like, releases all these things into our system to try and calm this blood sugar spike down, because our body's natural instinct is to not have that. So every time we're eating sugar, we're creating this sort of storm. And one of the other effects is what we're talking about, our immune system and our immune health. When we eat sugar for hours and hours and hours afterwards, while this sugar is going through our system, if our immune level was here before we ate sugar, our immunity drops down. So, in the case of like we're living in a pandemic, in the case of people with challenged health in whatever way, states of chronic disease, or if you're struggling with certain things, is that when you're ingesting sugar, you're dropping your what it may be already a compromised immune system down to the next level. Or you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to eat a muffin for breakfast, and then I'm going to go to the supermarket, and there's lots of people in the supermarket with COVID-19. I haven't been really feeling great at the moment, and my immune system isn't great, but I'm going to eat sugar and go to the supermarket. But probably not the smartest idea. So I just really wanted to bring that up. And I mean, as far as our immune system goes, 70% of our immune system lives in our gut. And there's a real connection between our gut and our brain, and how sugar impacts our brain health. In the case of this particular community, your brain health is something that, is really paramount to focus on. So sugar is going to affect you probably more so maybe than some of the other communities who haven't had a stroke. And also, like, looking at, like, you're trying to recover your brain, like you're all like stroke survivors, so you're in this recovery mode, you're on this like healing journey. That how can we support your healing journey? And one of the ways we can support that is supporting your gut and brain health connection. And one of the ways we can do that is removing sugar from your diet. Do we have any questions at this point?
I got one.
Great.
A lot of people, I just want to get your opinion on this and where you're drawing the line. A lot of people try different things like, date syrup, date sugar, maple syrup, honey, things like that. Stevia and aspartame, there are artificial sweeteners, but a lot of people try and, get date sugar, maple syrup, honey, which are all natural. I read something about on a diabetic website, I believe it was, or a diabetic article, that honey's just as bad for diabetes as sugar. Where do you draw the line between? I mean, I understand there's a difference between processed white sugar and date sugar, but is date sugar have similar effects on the brain and the inflammation and the body?
I can happily talk into that, and it's an excellent question. So the question is, a natural sugar is going to have the same anti-inflammatory response as a processed sugar. So with something like dates and date sugar, maple syrup, honey, like those three in particular have fiber in them. They have minerals in them. So they have some other things in them. I mean, honey is like a beautiful healing product. I mean, it's actually nature's antibiotic. So some of these ingredients have, benefits to them. One of them with having this nutrient density in it and having the fiber in it and having that sort of thing is it doesn't spike your blood sugar as much. But sugar is sugar, and it's still causing inflammation. But like by dropping down, taking out all the processed sugar and just having small amounts of natural sugar, you're making a huge impact to your, overall general health and inflammation. And, we are hardwired to want sugar. Like as hunter-gatherers, it was like, we are hardwired to want sugar. It's an energy source. It's a simple energy source, and we can like really process and access it really easy. When we were hunter and gatherers, we had to climb a tree and get the honey out of the honey pot at the top of the tree. Now we have to go to the supermarket and, wade through aisles and aisles and aisles of what's, to be honest, like crap food that's full of sugar and processed things. So it's like but we're still hardwired to want that sweet. And, in a lot of ways, like we're hardwired with the sweetness to be like, sweetness is nourishing. If you look at like Chinese medicine, then they talk about like the flavor sweet is nourishing. And it's like, that can definitely be the case with honey, and it can definitely be the case with dates. It's definitely not the case with white processed sugar. So it's like, choose your battles. Everyone's different, and everyone needs to adjust, accordingly. But like, just being aware that it doesn't matter if it's, what sort of sugar it is going to cause inflammation in the body.
Okay, I got one more from somebody in the chat group.
Perfect.
They texted me and said they were having audio troubles, and would I mind asking it? I was going to anyway. It's a good question, because the question is, how do you reduce sugar in recipes when there are kids involved? And a lot of people have families and children. Children are kind of wired for sugar. Unfortunately, I think that's where a lot of our problems as adults start. We've got this whole reward system for behavior and stuff. You get a treat, and so we put sugar up on this pedestal. That's a whole nother conversation. I shouldn't get on.
It is.
But the point here is that nobody wants to cook. I'm a vegetarian, and when you have company,
I get it, and I'll answer that question.
Nobody wants to cook 2 sets of meals.
No. So that would be where and this is it's a perfect question, and it's an excellent question. That is where we bring in our natural sugars. That's where we focus on using our date sugars. That's where we focus on using our dried fruits. That's where we focus on using applesauce, which I'm going to jump in and have a little conversation about in a little minute. That's where we focus on using our maple syrup, and that's where we focus on using our honey, because we're giving our children some nutrients, some valuable minerals, some valuable products in there while we're adding that sweetness in. If you can remove white sugar and processed sugar and cane sugar and all those things, great. If you can cut it down, step it back out, and it takes time. It's a journey, and it's not easy. And I'm not saying anything worth doing is easy. Like, sometimes change is hard, and definitely with diet and sugar, it's extremely hard. But, if you keep at it, and it's just, changing little habits all the time, which is what I want to jump into now, and sort of like give you some ideas on like how to go about doing that. And listen, and, as I talk through this, it might like become a little bit clearer, like, some of the ideas.
If I could just comment,
please,
briefly, the brain needs glucose. Glucose is the main energy of neurons in the brain.
Yes.
So you do need some source of glucose. And it's especially true for stroke survivors when they're trying to heal their brain. Now, I understand about white refined sugar versus the rest. Also, it's important, in my opinion, not to consume artificial sweeteners.
Agreed.
Things like aspartame and NutraSweet. There is at least one study that shows that the more diet soda you drink, the more weight you gain.
True.
So you have to be very careful. There's a professor, I think his name is John Olney, at Washington University in St. Louis, who did research on the effects of aspartame in monkeys. And basically, he found that aspartame damages the arcuate nucleus of the hypothalamus in the brain. And that causes a number of metabolic changes, including one that contributes to weight gain. And he found that it is especially damaging in young baby monkeys. And that's why there is no aspartame in baby food.
Thank goodness.
Absolutely. So if you have children, in my opinion, don't ever give them anything with an artificial sweetener.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, and it's, you know, it's a chemical and it's toxicity, and that's what you're introducing into your body. And, you know, going back around to like what you were saying about the body needs glucose and the brain needs glucose, it absolutely does. But that's coming, you know, that's coming in from the food that we eat and the fruits and the vegetables and, you
Yes.
know, all the other things we're bringing in our diet. We don't need to add sugar to nourish our brain. It's an
Right.
easy nutrient in that way. And I mean, and you know, that's an excellent point. And thank you for bringing that up about the, you know, about the fake sugars, because they're even worse. Because now we're taking in this fake ingredient. So not only is it affecting our brain, it's also affecting our gut, and our liver is like, what is this? I mean, it's some science project. That's like, it's just some chemical like formula. And if you put all the ingredients separately and I was like, here, give this to your kids, you'd be like, no, you'd like call the police. But it's like, oh, if I wrap it up and put it in, you know, a lolly and like make it look blue or red and be like, here, give it to your kids. It's like, okay, great. And you know, that's unfortunately how our society is sort of like wired. So, you know, everyone is like, you know, we're all on our own advocating for our own health and trying to like figure this out as we're navigating through what works in our body and what doesn't, you know, and ways that we can, you know, ways that we can introduce like nourishing foods and still have that natural sweetness going on.
Just so you know, Karina, Dr. Hetzler is a stroke survivor himself. He's also a neuroscientist, so he provides us with a lot of scientific information on
It's amazing.
and how the brain, you know, works and functions and what it needs and what's good for it and bad for it. And like you, he's a valued member of our community. We hope to bring people in and have them hang with us. So
totally, no, it's excellent, and you know, it's like a gift for the community, you know, to have such wisdom on like, you know, how the body works and how the brain works, you know, especially in this case. Is there any more questions, or should I crack on with my demonstrations?
Wait, I have a question.
Okay.
If you don't live near an organic store, what are you supposed to do?
I would say you do the best that you can. If you find some like local farms, it's like, it doesn't need to be certified organic. I think, you know, we have to make do with the best that we can. And if the only thing that's available for you is a local supermarket, I'd say stick to the outer aisles. You know, go for your whole foods, your whole fruit and vegetables, your whole grains, your frozen berries, and, you know, do the best you can in the environment you're in. And, you know, part of like removing something like sugar from our diet helps our immune system be a little bit stronger, which means, and, you know, and it helps our liver and it helps the inflammation in our body relax down. And it's like, and if we're not eating organic foods, and, you know, there is some chemicals involved, maybe our body's better equipped to handle it if we're not also introducing inflammatory foods in there at the same time. That's kind of how I look at it. It's like, you know, we've all got it. It's a balancing act every day for us all. What's accessible, what's available, what we're able to achieve, you know, and it's a moving target. So I just say, do the best that you can every day and just try and remove the sugar.
A lot of supermarkets are starting to have a small organic section. I know even Walmart does. They've got, you know, big long produce counter, and then they got a short one with nothing but organic stuff. This is my opinion. Karina, you might have a different opinion on it, but as a lifelong vegetarian, I've sort of found that, and I totally believe in organic. I wish that we didn't have 8 kinds of organic. When I started this, we only had 1 kind of organic, and that was certified California organic, and it was guaranteed organic. Now we have stuff, by the way, Winnie, and for those of you who are out there, we have organic stuff that's essentially not organic. It's labeled organic. But the point I was going to try and make was I think it's more important to switch to a plant-based diet and get away from some of the toxins that people, you know, the meat and potatoes type people tend to eat than it is to eat everything organic. I don't know if you can weigh in on that or not.
I mean, I think everybody's different, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for everybody. I just sort of like look at the overarching view of different people have different needs, different people have different belief systems. I understand the benefits of all of the different things from the education that I have, and I really sort of like leave that up to the individual. And you know, when we're looking at functional nutrition, we look at bio-individuality. So like how these certain foods affect people, and like people have food allergies. So like what like plant-based thing is good for one person might not be good for the other person. So it's just really about like tuning into like what works for you and what works within each individual's body. As far as like the organic versus the not organic, again, do the best you can. There's a list out there. It's called like the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 or something like that. If you just Google it, it'll be like, these are the ingredients that it's more important to buy organic. Strawberries, spinach, citrus, celery,
Yes.
apples, the list goes like on and on and on. But that's maybe something that would be helpful for people to look at.
You'll often find that with the superfoods list. And I guess my point was, whether you go organic or not, if you can switch away from things that are not good for you towards the superfoods, you know, and in a program that works for you, then, you know, I think that's more important than being totally organic. But like I said, that's
right. And I think, you know, the most important thing is removing sugar, which, you know, are we good for me to get to the ways that we can do that and we can support our gut and brain health and remove sugar from our diet? Because I've got quite a few things to cover, and I'm conscious.
Sure. Go ahead. I'm going to switch you to speaker view so we can see better.
Okay.
Okay. There we go. You're full screen now.
Cool. So I'm just going to go through some different things, different ideas, different ways that you can support your gut health. We talked about that already, the gut-brain connection. You know, we're also supporting our digestive system. We're also supporting our elimination system. Our elimination is our natural detoxification. So we want to be, you know, having a regular bowel movement every day. We want to be like, how do we support that with, you know, the food and the drinks and the different things that we do? So one of the ways that you can do it is like there's something called raw apple cider vinegar. This is a fermented food. It's like quite cleansing, and it also supports like gut health, and it also sort of is it's a little acidic. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's better, but it's, you know, it's a powerful cleansing agent. And if first thing in the morning, one of the things that you can do is have a glass of water, you know, 1 or 2 teaspoons. You can pour it on a teaspoon. I never pour it on a teaspoon. I just pour it on, you know, in the cap like that. If that's challenging to you, maybe there's other ways that you can pour this into something that's a bit easier to pour than this lid. Maybe you put like something on the top of it, like a you know, like an olive oil bottle stopper on the top of it, and you can pour it that way, just using one hand. That like might be an easier approach. And then you're going to drink this. And that's also something that, you know, when you get to that 3 o'clock time where you're like, oh, I just want a coffee and a piece of chocolate because I'm having a bit of a sugar crash here and I'm tired in the afternoon, or, you know, that 11 o'clock or any time of the day where you're like, you know, I really want something sweet, I would say have a little apple cider vinegar in a glass of water and drink that, and then decide if you still want something sweet. And there's an excellent chance that you won't. So just because you've changed that flavor profile and you're not thinking sweet anymore, because there is a little acidity to that. And, you know, it's cleansing, it's rejuvenating, it's refreshing. So that's like one thing that you can do every day. One of the other things that you can do that I do this every day. At some point during the day, when I first walk into my kitchen in the morning, I do a lemon, squeeze my lemon, slice it up, squeeze it. A stainless steel squeezer is like the best bit of kit. It's $9. I wouldn't use plastic. I wouldn't use anything else. It'll outlast like my lifetime. And if you're spending the money and actually like buying lemons, you don't want to you want to be able to squeeze them properly. Okay. You want to be able to get, ooh, that glass feels like that's what I'm going for. You want to be able to get like all of the juice out of it, you know? So really think that like some people just kind of like hand squeeze it, and you're wasting the citrus. One thing that, whether you're buying organic or you're not buying organic, this doesn't matter. When I walked home from the supermarket with my lemons, I get a big stainless steel bowl, I put it in the sink, I put hot water in it, I put a little dish soap in it, and I throw all my citrus in it and I wash it. Because and I do it with avocados, I pretty much do it with every piece of produce, because as I cut and my knife from the outside of the skin goes through the inside of the skin, whatever's on the outside of the skin now is on the inside of the skin. Something that's a little food for thought, as far as like moving bacteria and moving chemicals, and how many people has touched this lemon before it got into my kitchen is profound.
I won't let them put one on my water or my iced tea. Not in a restaurant. Never.
So you can see how much like lemon juice I got out of that,
Right.
as opposed to, if I just squeezed it like that. And then, you can put half a lemon. And this does a couple of things. It's very cleansing. It gets your system moving from a digestion and elimination point of view. Another thing that happens as we age is the hydrochloric acid levels in our stomach drop, and a lot of people have problems with digestion and problems with acid reflux and all of that sort of thing. And especially, if your health has been compromised in any way, you've had medication, and this is something that is a real thing that happens every day. There's a whole entire, big pharma industry built around proton pumps and acids and all of that sort of thing. Stomach acid isn't high acid, it's low acid in your stomach. So low acidity in your stomach. So you've got low hydrochloric acid. So one of the ways to support the hydrochloric acid levels in your stomach is simply a glass of lemon water every morning on an empty stomach. And by doing that, you can improve your gut health, you can improve your cleansing and elimination. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. Another way to, if this squeezing a lemon is not accessible to you, and I appreciate that it's not accessible to everyone, I've got one of my very favorite chef bits of kit here. This is a mandolin, but it's not a fussy one like some of the other ones. The name of the company is Benriner, Benriner. And what we can do, we've got our lime, and you could probably put it on the bench. You're probably much more clever at this than I am, but the idea is, instead of using a knife, we're slicing this way, so it's a little bit easier. And then, we've got all these beautiful, easy lemon slices. We can get our, glass of water, and we can put our lime slices in that. And we can put our lemon or our lemon slices. We can do the same thing with our lemon. And that's just a way to add something acidic to your water. Hydration is really important. And when we eat a lot of sugar, we're dehydrating our system. Caffeine does that as well. Lots of different things to help, do dehydration, but a medication especially. So we're wanting to hydrate our system really well every day. Sometimes it's boring to drink water, and you're like, okay, I want something sweet, I want a soda, or I want something like that. Having a glass with, sliced lime or sliced lemon in it is adding vitamin C. It's adding that acidity to support your system, and you're getting a flavor profile. And what it's doing, because it's sour is astringent. So astringent, and we talk about in Chinese medicine, is tightening our tissues, which is what we want throughout our whole body, especially as we age. And we're also taking that sweetness out of our mind. So when you have something sour, you don't want something sweet. Like, it's like, so that there's part of like idea of introducing all of these little tiny tricks of the trade is to sort of like trick your brain. You're like, oh, I really want chocolate. It's like, not after you have a glass of water with lemon in it, you don't. So it's like that idea of like introducing these tiny little things every day that you're like, oh, and that makes a difference. And that's how we change our habit long term. So that's one way of adding things into for different drinks. Some other different drinks, and this is a great bit of kit. I don't leave home without cutting radishes, cutting cucumber, cutting everything. It is sharp. You can get a non-cut glove, but it's just really, 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 like, really easy to use. It's really simple. You screw this here, and that tells you, like, shows the different level of thickness. I've had this for, gosh, 15 years maybe, and it's still as sharp as it was. I've cut my fingers spectacularly a couple of times, so a glove is a terrible idea.
Quick question.
Yes.
I wanted to know, should it be cold water or warm water?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Cold water or warm water?
I would say room temperature water or very lukewarm water, because one of the things about we're talking about lemons in this case, it has vitamin C in it, and vitamin C will destabilize when we add heat to it. So what I would do is, if you want warm water or room temperature water, but with warm water, I will pour a little bit of hot water in my mug that I use every day. I have this mug here. So I drink this with lemon water in it every day. So I'll put like this much hot water from my kettle. I'll fill it up with this much cold water. I'm not cold water, room temperature water. I have a Berkey filter with my water. Then I pour my lemon juice in it, and then off I go. And I drink that. And before that, I've had another glass of water. So the other part of like hydrating is, by the time before I've done too much, I've probably drunk 16 ounces of water. So that's me starting my day, hydrating and cleansing my system. And then it's like, then I can go to my coffee and my tea and like all the other things. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, a couple of other different drink ideas, which are kind of fun that I like. I've just got like it here for you. So, where did it go? So like I've got some frozen fruit. I am a huge fan of bags of frozen berries. I'm not a huge fan of the tiny little containers because they're expensive. It's not sustainable. You can buy big bags of frozen berries. They pick them, they freeze them. They're just as nutrient dense, and they're also like really easy to use, really affordable. So I work a lot with frozen berries. And so this morning I just put, this is like a mixed berry in here. This is cherries. Cherries is lovely for supporting our metabolism and supporting our digestive system. And then, I've got blueberries in here. But what's cool is then you get like some sparkling water. Not tonic water. Tonic water's got a ton of sugar in it, but like just like a seltzer water or a sparkling water. And then look, you've got this berry drink. Okay. So you're adding, you've got this, like, instead of having, a can of, some raspberry thing that someone's put aspartame and sugar and everything in it, you can just use, a quarter of a cup or half a cup of like frozen berries. I love to use a mason jar because it's easy. Pour some sparkling water on it, and you've got yourself a nice little drink. And if you want to put a slice of lemon or lime in it because you're feeling fancy, then like do that, some ice in it, and you've sort of got yourself something that's nice. It's really high in antioxidants. It's really high in vitamin C. You get to eat the fruit at the end. It's very affordable. So, that's another idea that I like to use with drinks. Your cherry cola. It's like, we'll skip the cola bit. Get a bag of frozen cherries and, pour some sparkling water on it and enjoy it. And if you're like, you're not going to need to add the sweetness because the berries are naturally sweet. And if you want something sour and taking it in that like sort of like mocktail cocktail direction, like, frozen raspberries and squeezing some lime juice and then adding some like salsa water or sparkling water. I've got one of those soda streams that I have over here that gas my own water. And, that's just a fun way to keep hydrated, to keep you feeling satisfied, to sort of stop those sugar cravings, but also, feel like you're having something nice to drink.
Did you did you puree them first, or are they? So
Nope.
you just, when you get to the cherries, you just drink them.
I just put them in like they're still whole. See?
Right. Do you drink them?
Yeah, then I eat them at the end. So it's like, a drink and a snack. Done. Check.
I didn't know if you tried pureeing them first, more like a.
No, I don't in this case, no. I am going to puree something. I want to demonstrate a smoothie for you now. So I'm going to take that aside. I'm going to demonstrate a smoothie and talk a little bit about that. I feel like, this community could benefit from a smoothie because it's really easy to make. And, there's a lot of nutrient density that you can add into it. And as I go through the next couple of things, I'm going to like talk about like some of the ways of why we'd be craving sugar and something to look out for. And like one of the reasons why we're craving sugar is like we're kind of craving nourishment in a lot of ways. And if we're not eating a nice and balanced meal, whatever that looks like for you, of protein, fat, and fiber, we're going to be wanting something more. And I find with myself and all of my clients that I work with over the past 20 years, it's like if I get that ratio balance of like a good amount of fiber, a good amount of protein in any form, whatever that looks like, there's so many ways you can do it. And I'm going to talk about how to do it in a minute, a little bit. And then, that fat, and I don't mean, pouring in like butter or olive oil, I mean, something like nuts and seeds that have got a fat content, you feel satiated. Okay. So you're not then like going chasing like, oh, well, I feel like I had something else. I need something else. And it's like, if you've eaten a meal and you're like, I need something else, the first thing I would say would be like, okay, well, let's like back it up a little bit for a second. What was on your plate that wasn't balanced that now you want something else? That's just food for thought.
You need to eat.
Oh, sorry.
No, so cherries and berries is what I've got in here. And I'm going to pull my tray forward. I'm going to move my board now, and I'm going to pull my tray forward. And I've got lots of things on my tray, ingredients-wise, for a smoothie that I want to talk about. And then I'm going to demonstrate how to make a muesli, and then how to make a Bircher sort of European-style muesli that I feel would be cool for this community.
Cool.
This huge tray here, so it's kind of heavy, so I'm just going to like turn around as I carry it.
Wow.
Lots of nuts, lots of seeds. I'm going to talk about why and how you can use each of these different ones, and what's helpful. So we're talking about a balanced smoothie of fat, protein, fiber, and we want some nutrient density in here. So we've got mixed berries and cherries. I just pour them straight out of the packet that's in the freezer, straight into my thing here. I have my little tablespoon, and then some seeds that we can add that have got a good protein amount and a good fat amount in them is our hemp seeds, hemp hearts. So a tablespoon of hemp hearts. We've got something here called a flax seed. We want the whole flax seeds. We don't want to buy the ground flax seeds, because if you buy ground seeds, their oils are really fragile and they oxidize really quickly, i.e. they go rancid really quickly. So when we're working with seeds, we want to really buy everything whole. And I actually store them in the fridge or the freezer, because they've got omega-3 fatty acids in them. They've got B6 in them. They've got like lots of nutrient density and all these like oils in them that are quite fragile. So to keep them fresh and longer, because we only use small amounts, I like to keep them in the fridge and freezer. And if you can do that with nuts and seeds, great. If you can't do it because you don't have enough space in your freezer, I would say flax seeds, hemp seeds are the two most important ones to keep in the fridge. So we're going to use flax seeds. So flax seeds are full of all sorts of different omega-3s and different nutrients that help balance our hormones. And then you've got all the good fats. So a tablespoon of that. You can put chia seeds in it if you want. It's another thing. If you don't like flax seeds, you can choose chia seeds, put that in there. You can use sesame seeds. And I learned something about sesame seeds the other day that I didn't know, and I'm like, kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So sesame seeds are high in iron, they're high in magnesium, they're high in B6. B6 is a really important mineral if we're talking about establishing our blood sugar, stabilizing our metabolism. If our metabolism's all over the place, we want to maybe look at how much B6, because B6 is a key nutrient, is a key mineral. So that's something to like think about. It's also sesame has also got calcium in it. But also the cool thing that I learned is it stimulates dopamine. So dopamine is one of those hormones that's our happy hormone. Okay. So it's got all the good fats, all the good nutrients. It's sesame seeds. It's pretty simple. 1 tablespoon of sesame seeds. Then we can literally pour in some water and blend it. And if you want me to do that right now, I can, but it's going to be noisy. I'm just warning you. But let me do that.
By the way, anybody who has think about buying a mandel, and you got to be real careful with them. You can seriously cut yourself with them.
Yes.
When
The
it
other
gets
thing,
close, I use an old wooden spoon, the back of an old wooden spoon, to push it through. I bought the gloves and the fingertips. I cut the fingertips on the glove the first time I used them. It's the only thing Amazon has ever refunded me in 27 years.
you need to get the Kevlar glove.
Because
So another way to add some sweetness to our smoothie, which I particularly like, and especially, you know, if you're challenged with mobility and doing different things, is applesauce. So apple is a fantastic product as far, or ingredient, I should say, not product, is a fabulous ingredient for supporting your gut digestion, elimination. It's high in fiber. It's cleansing. It's all the good things. And so it's also naturally sweet. And you know, always buy the unsweetened version. Always read the label. And it should be just applesauce put down. If you're lucky enough that you have the ability to make your own applesauce, it's incredibly easy to do it. But it's a way to add natural sweetness. Is, you know, a couple of tablespoons of applesauce. You can add banana, you can add all sorts of different things. I don't have any bananas right now, but I really wanted to just sort of show you the berries and the seeds. I'm going to blend it, and then you can see it. The other thing you can add in is yogurt. Like, your imagination is your limitation here, but we're just doing something really basic. So I'm going to put the lid on this and turn this on. It's going to be a little noisy for a minute. I have a Vitamix, so it's like,
do you like your Vitamix? Wow. It's quiet.
I have Vitamix. I love it, but it's much more louder. Wow, this is quiet. Yeah.
My blender will drive you out of the room.
Yeah.
all right. So here we are. Here's our smoothie. So, you know, we put all whole, easy, simple ingredients in it. This is something I use every day. I don't know if everybody knows what this is, but it's a jam sieve. So when you're making jam and you're like pouring jams in jars, it stops the jar spilling. I don't make jam, but like whenever I'm filling up all of these jars, I use it. If you're a little bit shaky, so, you know, this would be a useful thing to do when you're pouring things in jars. You can just add your sieve there and leave this on here, and it's just like a really helpful bit of kit. And I like to buy the stainless steel one. I don't like to have anything plastic in my kitchen. No, plastic is not good for the environment or for our hormones. So, you know, here's your smoothie, and this is high in protein, high in all of the you know, healthy fats that we need, and you know, super nutrient dense. And it's like, if you
That
have
looks beautiful.
something like that every day, that is really, there's a natural sweetness to it. You know, it's filling, it's simple. It's like, oh, I want something to eat. And maybe go into the kitchen and let me get a cracker, let me, you know, eat some bread, have a sandwich. It's like, no. If you really want to be changing your health and really improving your healing journey, you know, replacing refined carbohydrates like bread and pastries with something like, you know, a very simple berry smoothie, and adding those fats and seeds and proteins in it, then you'll be advocating for your own health. And, you know, it just took a minute. So this is something I drink every single day.
That's awesome.
So next I want to talk about some of these ingredients. I want to show you how to make a muesli. This recipe is on my website, botanicalkitchen.com. It's called Botanical Kitchen Muesli, for lack of a better word. I think that's it. So in here I have got rolled oats. Rolled oats are gluten-free. Gluten is inflammatory. It is lots of things in our body. We're not talking about gluten right now. But we're talking about sugar. So oats are really nourishing. They have protein in them. They have fiber in them. They're very affordable, available, and you can buy gluten-free organic rolled oats at your supermarket. So we've got 2 cups of oats. We're going to put in half a cup of coconut. I call it desiccated coconut in Australia. In America, I think you call it shredded coconut or fine shredded coconut. We have different names for different things across the globe. Then we're going to put some sunflower seeds in it. So our seeds are all full of lots of fats, lots of fibers, lots of minerals that support our immune health and our hormone health. Zinc. We've got pumpkin seeds, and these are heirloom pumpkin seeds. Actually, you can see how they're quite dark. That's quite pretty. Pumpkin seeds are really high in zinc. Zinc is like one of the keystone minerals to support our immune system and our gut health. It's also really important for men's reproductive health. So for the males in your life, bringing pumpkin seeds in to help with their hormone health is using food as medicine. So we've got like a quarter of a cup of pumpkin seeds in there. We can put some chia seeds in there, 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. So chia seeds, what's fun about them is they have a mucilaginous effect. So when you add water to them, they get a little like full and like a little like sticky. But when you consume them, they're also like, that's how they move through your digestive system, and they kind of like it's quite cleansing. They're a cool thing. They also have omega-3 fatty acids in them. So, you know, instead of getting it from an animal product or, you know, looking at, you know, bringing in different nutrients, different like healthy fats in other ways than animal products, chia seeds is a good one. So I add like about 2 tablespoons of chia seeds in there. If you want to add sesame, you wouldn't add the whole flax seeds in here. You could blend the flax seeds and blend them down like that so that they're in a powdered form, and then keep them in the fridge, but you wouldn't necessarily put those in here. You could put some hemp seeds in here, but we're not going to. I usually use currants. So, and then we're going to bring in a little sweetness with dried currants. Dried currants are smaller than raisins. I like, from dried fruit point of view, I do not like cranberries because cranberries always have sugar added to them. I like raisins. I like currants. They're really high in antioxidants. They're quite healing for gut health. They're actually really good for bone density, which is kind of interesting. And they're small and they're naturally sweet. It's all good things. And you can buy them organic and they can be really affordable. So I like to use currants because it feels nice and it's a nice small little deep bite in this recipe. I use like about 2 tablespoons. So that's kind of like the general gist of muesli. And then, you know, you mix it up like I do in a big batch. And, you know, just go, there we go. There's our Botanical Kitchen muesli. And there's recipes on my website. You can make cookies with this. You can make some bircher muesli with it. You can like toast it and make granola with it. There's lots of different things that you can do with this baseline recipe, which is like something that I try to work towards to make things practical and accessible for everybody. What I like to do with this muesli in particular is I'm going to demonstrate now. I'm going to move this tray right there. So the other thing that you could add, is like nuts. So you could add walnut, almonds to it. So nuts are really high in protein. So the protein we've got in here thus far is only coming from our oats. Oats actually have a pretty high amount of protein. Most people don't know that. And they're really high in fiber. So we've got good fats, we've got good minerals, we've got fiber. That's all from all the ingredients that we've added in here, which are pretty simple, basic ingredients. The other thing that we can add that would be beneficial, I maybe wouldn't add it at this point, but if we're, you know, talking about nuts, there's something we talk about in the herbal world with nuts that's called, or with plants, that's called the doctrine of signatures. So the idea is the plant gives you a hint as to what it would be good for in your body. And, you know, I think walnuts are definitely a classic example. It's like, if you look at a walnut, right, it looks like a brain. Okay. So the doctrine of signatures tells us that walnuts are good for our brain, and you know what? Walnuts are good for our brain. So I just wanted to share that with you. I always think that that's cool.
Can you speak into what people can do if they have an allergy to seeds and nuts?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry, you broke up a little tiny bit.
Can you speak into what people can do if they have an allergy to seeds and nuts as a substitution?
I would go with coconut, because a seed and nut is not like coconut's different usually. I would say that would be a great place to begin adding those in. You could go to adding, I mean, it depends. Most people in my experience of my career aren't allergic to all the nuts and all the seeds. It's usually just some of them, and it depends on what's going on. I mean, you know, peanuts, but peanuts is not a nut. Peanuts is actually a legume. So that's a legume allergy. Most people have, and then there's tree nuts, and then there's ground nuts, and then, you know, we've got all the different seeds. As far as the seeds go, in my experience, in my career, most people aren't allergic to the seeds. The people that react to the seeds usually have something going on in their gut. So, you know, chia seeds, like, you know, often SIBO or often diverticulitis, that sort of condition, seeds will aggravate that. And if that's the case, then, you know, blending the seeds up really nice and fine is a way to do it, or just avoiding the seeds altogether. So I think it's a case of just like experimenting with the different seeds and finding out what works for you. In my experience, hemp seeds, which hemp's really high in protein, hemp seeds, I haven't met anyone who's allergic to hemp, but everybody's allergic, like someone's always allergic to something, but like that's like sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. Like those three are usually pretty easy. Sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds are readily available in our basic supermarkets. So that's a great place to start and, you know, move up from there. Does that help?
Perfect.
Okay. So now we're going to make our birch muesli. So something fun. So we were talking about fats, fiber, protein, right? And, you know, it's got to taste good and all the things. So now I've got this little mason jar. I've got frozen raspberries. Okay. Yes, I took them out of the fridge. I went like that. I put them in the jar at the end. But what's nice is they melted, right? So now they naturally release their juice, which is what I love about using frozen berries as far from affordability and sustainability goes. So we're going to I'm going to find my measuring cup. I'm going to put a cup. This is a quarter of a cup. So I'm going to put, let's go half a cup. We're going to do half a cup of our muesli. I want to do two things you can do. You can grate an apple on a grater, but if you can't grate an apple, because it's hard for some people to grate an apple, and I appreciate that, applesauce, we're also adding sweetness, we're also adding fiber, we're also adding nutrients. So maybe that's 2 tablespoons, that's about a quarter of a cup. A chef eyeballed that one for you. And then we have yogurt. So now when we're introducing yogurt, we're introducing probiotics, and probiotics support our gut health and our gut microbiome. We talked about our immune system, inflammation, sugar, and our gut health. So adding probiotics that support our gut health and our gut microbiome is really important. Dairy can be inflammatory. Well, dairy is inflammatory. I am not an advocate for dairy. But, you know, everybody needs to make their own decision. Whatever dairy you do or do not use, it needs to be unsweetened yogurt. I'm a big fan of cashew yogurt. There's this brand called Foragers, and it's cashews and coconut cream and not a whole lot else. It's fermented. It's a good product. It's readily available in all of the basic supermarkets. It's not in a fancy supermarket. I can buy it anywhere, up here in New England anyway. And so you're bringing in your probiotics, you're bringing in some protein, you're bringing in some calcium. There's actually a fairly high amount of calcium in cashew nuts. So we don't necessarily need dairy for calcium. And in a lot of ways, actually, that doesn't work, because if you have if you're having low fat yogurt, or no fat or fat-free yogurt, and you don't have enough vitamin D in your system, you know, you're not absorbing the calcium anyway. That's another conversation. But so yogurt in this is lovely. makes it nice and creamy. And a traditional bircher muesli, so this is kind of like a European version of overnight oats, right? And Botanical Kitchen's version, my version. So we pour about 1/4 cup of that also in there. And then you can shake it, you can stir it. And, you know, I usually like let it sit because I want the oats to soak up they'll soften, they'll soak up, and it'll soften into a lovely breakfast cereal. But in this case, we're not softening. So you can make this in batches, put it in the fridge, make it up in mason jars, put the lid on, and that can be a snack. And you don't have to have it for breakfast. You can have it for dinner. You can have it for lunch. You can have it like, you know, I throw sometimes like just the muesli in the car, and then I'll just add water when I'm doing a road trip, because it's like I'm taking something with me that I know is nutrient dense, that is gonna like help me get through my day, whatever that looks like, as opposed to going and eating something that I don't really need to eat. So then we can just, I'm going to show you to you this way, because like we can serve it. So, you know, we've got this lovely, either how the raspberries change the color of it and made it like look really cool. And then, you know, you're getting that sour flavor to it, and you're getting vitamins and minerals added to that. And right now it's blackberry season, so you can add some blackberries on top if we want. We can add some blueberries. These are Maine wild blueberries, because I'm talking to you today from about Portland, Maine. I bought these at the farmer's market the other day. It's such a treat this time of the year. They're in season. And then, you know, this would be a great place where we would bring in our walnuts for our brain health, okay? And to add in more fat and more fiber. Walnuts are also lovely for balancing our hormones, and especially women, especially like 35 plus, walnuts are our friend, really our friend. So I try to eat this size container of walnuts every day, and it really helps. I'm going in that perimenopause stage in my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening with my body? A lot of you are dealing with that as well as dealing with your other health challenges. So like it's no fun. And you know, our community doesn't really talk about menopause and the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause enough. I would like to change that. But one of the supporting foods that you can use in that sector is walnuts, and also, you know, it's great for our brain health. So we're going to add, you know, a couple of walnuts in here, and breakfast is served, or lunch or brunch. Really simple. And that was just one. And look, you've still got all of this to go, right? So there's like 5-7 meals there. And the cost of this is very, very, very affordable. And you make it yourself. If you go to the supermarket and you're like, go and buy a bag of muesli, it's like, it's insane. It's like 700% more expensive than buying the ingredients and making it yourself. I've done the math. All right, what else?
Same with hummus.
Same with hummus, yeah. Same with a lot of things. Okay, there's one other thing I want to go quickly, and then I will open this up for questions. One more thing to think about when we're talking about sugar, and we're talking about balancing our sugar and removing it from our diet and keeping our blood sugar stable and managing our weight and all of those things that's involved with this story, is, you know, reducing refined carbohydrates. And like one of the ways that we can do that is, like, for example, you're going to have tacos for dinner. Or, you know, you're going to make a sandwich, or, you know, you want to have hummus, but you're putting it on a cracker that, you know, is made with refined white flour, and they put sugar in everything. You go start reading the label. They put sugar and peanut butter, for goodness sake. And it's like, peanut butter is like peanut and salt. There shouldn't be any sugar involved, but they do, because it's a cheap ingredient and they're trying to use it up. And, you know, this is why we have heart disease, obesity, and diabetes pandemic. So using a lettuce leaf as a taco, using it as something to spread a dip on. So it's like, you know, get a lettuce leaf. This is a romaine lettuce leaf. I got it from the farmer's market the other day, you know, and you spread your hummus or your snack or your whatever it is on there. And then, you know, you roll up your lettuce leaf, and then, you know, you're snacking on that. And what you're doing is reducing the amount of refined carbohydrates that you're taking in and the amount of sugar, and you're keeping your blood sugar more stable. It's easy. Okay, was that helpful?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Quick question for Karina.
Please.
And Ralph, thank you so much. Again, as soon as you upload this session, I'll watch it over because there's a lot of important information. So Karina, I saw you had the apple cider, and sometimes when I scroll on Facebook, they have a lot. Obviously, I gain a lot of weight. Yeah, like you said, I indulged myself when I came home from the hospital. After
that's part of the healing journey.
I did not look anything like this.
Okay.
At the hospital, I was 100 pounds. How did I end up like this? But sugar, I know. I'm trying to change this. So when I scroll on Facebook, I see a lot of apple cider vinegar, and there is a quick little note, lose 48 pounds or whatever if you do this. And obviously, I don't want to click because then you get these things on your text messages, and it's very annoying.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
Would this help at least a little bit with losing the weight?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that you want to, it's very cleansing for our digestive system. So we're talking about raw apple cider vinegar here, that this particular brand that, is, I particularly like, they do a
Yes.
good job, nice company. It's in glass, not plastic, which, I'm not an advocate for plastic. We talked about that. But yes, it will help because there's a couple of things that you want to get going. And one of them is your digestion and elimination. Because, if your elimination isn't firing, then, you're retaining all of the weight within your system, and, you're not cleansing your body naturally every day.
Right.
So that's the first thing.
So I could have a drink also before bed, right? Before I go to sleep?
Yes. I mean, you don't want to be drinking
Awesome.
cups of it a day, we're talking like a little bit at a time, but I'm also like the lemon water or the apple cider vinegar, and, switch it up. If I was talking literally to you right now as I am, and you were asking my opinion of like the best way to approach it, I would say lemon water in the morning. And then, a couple of times, maybe mid-morning, or when you feel like you're like, oh, I want to eat that sweet thing, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, that's when you can have your apple cider vinegar. So, you just, have one or two a day, and that will help just firing up your metabolism and getting your whole system moving. And then if you want to, I personally haven't had any experience having apple cider vinegar before bed, but I have lemon water before bed sometimes. And sometimes that's helping because it's so cleansing, and it's supporting our hydrochloric acid, and it's sort of like supporting like our digestive system and everything that's happening. The end of the day, I feel like sometimes it's nice to take something healing into the evening. So, when you're waking up, your system is going, and then you're going to have another lemon water, and off you go. And you might have half in the evening, and you might not have it like late because, you don't want to be up during the night, but, have that like, post dinner, or if like after dinner, you're like, oh, I really feel like I want to have a chocolate cookie.
That's my problem. I always love that. That's my problem.
So get the chocolate cookies out of your house, and because that helps when you can't get them. And then, have that lemon water.
That's funny because my kids are fighting me every day. Mom, you can't have this. Mom, you can't have this. And I'm like, guys, really?
Yeah. So mint tea is another thing that's also really nice, which also supports our digestive system in the evening. But,
and also going through menopause is not fun either with this nonsense.
It's not
and
fun.
I do have that sweet tooth that sometimes it's hard to say no.
Yeah, we all do. You're not alone. You're not alone in this. Like this is not just you. This is like us in general as society. And it's, healing doesn't happen in a straight line, and it's a journey and it's work. But if you put the work in, you're going to see the results, and then you're going to feel better, and and off you
Yes.
go, and just like
Somehow
spiral.
I was stronger to say no before. Now after the stroke, I'm little like, ugh.
I appreciate
That
that.
doesn't even make sense.
Your body's gone through a lot. And I appreciate that this is not easy. I'm never going to say it's easy to
Yeah.
change. Sugar's the hardest one. But, if you can start adding these tiny little things in every day, and then, also I think the somatic breathing work is also, the breath work is also like really important, because that's about getting your nervous system back in order. And that's going to help balance your hormones. And that's just going to kind of like help calm everything down, because sometimes like that sugar is like that fight or flight. I want. And it's like, well, what do I really want? It's like, what do I actually need? You don't need sugar. It's something else that you need. But like what that thing is for you, and just like, calming that system down, and just like getting back into your like sense of self and sense of place. And then, you kind of getting to that point where you're like, no, I don't want that. Or if you're like, I want a cookie, have an apple. An apple is an excellent thing to eat, because it's crunchy, it's sweet. Replace it, like replace the cookie with an orange, replace it with an apple, replace it like with something else like that. That's another thing. It's like, we're not taking everything away from you, being like, don't do that. What we're trying to do is like bring in other things that will be supportive for you, that you can like swap it in and out. And it's like, okay, I'm not having a cookie, I'm going to have an apple instead.
You can also get plant-based, no sugar protein bars that kind of taste like cookies but don't have any sugar in them. I would assume, you didn't mention it, but I would assume that you would recommend people buying a whole apple cider vinegar with their mother.
Yes, the raw one.
Yeah, so Bragg is I'm sure. So if people look and see it's slightly cloudy at the bottom, and you have to shake it.
Yes, you do have to shake it. So let me shake it. Let me demo that for you.
There's good stuff at the bottom.
There's good stuff. It's called the mother, which is,
Right.
part of the fermentation process, and it's totally natural. You don't necessarily need to drink it, but like it goes through the system. And fermented food is good for our gut and our gut microbiome.
Well, that's a whole nother program. Fermented
That's another program. Yeah.
fermented foods are very good for you. I try and eat some every day, if I can.
Does anybody else have any more questions, comments, concerns?
I've got a comment, and this has nothing to do with nutrition. But how are walnuts and George Washington related?
I have no idea.
George Washington had wooden teeth because of his habit of breaking open walnuts with his teeth.
Really?
Really, that is a true fact.
Okay. I did
And
not know
I
that.
think I'll mention this. I think you mentioned chocolate at one point, did you not?
Yeah.
If you have atrial fibrillation, you should not consume caffeine or chocolate, because chocolate has caffeine and theobromine in it. Theobromine is like caffeine, but it only works peripherally, like on your heart. So you could trigger atrial fibrillation by eating either caffeine or chocolate.
Good to
I'll
know.
be quiet now.
That's a great piece of advice. No, I mean, please. I mean, you're an expert. We're all in this together. We're all learning from each other. That's what I love about doing these things, and that's why I show up to these communities, because the day you stop learning is the day you give up, I think. So that was great. Thank you for that share. Does anybody else have any?
I have another question.
Sure,
Can you use Greek yogurt in your smoothie?
you can.
Sure.
I would say it needs to be plain Greek yogurt, not sweetened Greek yogurt, because but yes, you can.
I've seen people use apple juice as the base instead of applesauce. I would assume that would be okay also.
Well, it depends if the apple juice has got sugar in it. Look at the sugar content of the apple juice, because how they process it to create a clear apple juice is like not amazing. So I think applesauce is like pretty close to the whole food ingredient.
No, I agree.
So I would choose applesauce and water as opposed to apple juice?
Well, apple juice, I meant to ask this earlier, so maybe this is a good time.
Okay.
Two things real quick. I had a friend who lost 35 pounds doing nothing other than drinking water instead of soda. He was drinking not diet soda, but sugary soda. 35 pounds in about 2.5 months doing nothing else.
Sugar is a weight issue.
Yeah. And the other thing is juice. I'm always, juice is sweet. It satisfies, but I wonder, because like everything's made with concentrated grape juice, white grape juice, concentrated apple juice. I mean, they're like when I was a kid, Welch's grape juice was, when you looked on the side, it said grape juice. Now it says grape juice from concentrate. So I worry
berry
about
juice. You just learn how to make berry juice.
make your own.
Make your own. But yes, you're right. It's processed, it's pasteurized, it's homogenized, which means they heat it to extraordinarily high temperatures and add stuff into it to be able to put it in a plastic bottle to put it on the shelf. Like nutritional bang for your buck, I don't see it.
Well, I mean, if I buy juice, I buy the 100% juices, but they're basically, if you get like, an exotic juice, if you look, the first two ingredients are apple juice and white grape juice, and then some other strawberries or blueberries or other flavorings.
But what they don't tell you is the sugar content of the apple juice and the white grape juice, because by law they don't have to.
So can they add sugar by law? I mean, and not have to tell you by law?
Oh, the FDA does all sorts of things that we don't know about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, also, you're talking about sweeteners. You should avoid anything like a flavored yogurt that has high fructose corn syrup in it.
Yes, you should.
Definitely avoid that.
Plain yogurt, like add your own sweetener. And if you want to add sweetener and you want to add honey, add a date, add, some maple syrup. But, it's cheaper, more sensible, more sustainable, and, you're in control of consuming, what you want when you create these things yourself. And it makes more sense. And when you get into the routine of it, like at first it might be like, okay, like this is a little odd. It's like, don't try and do it all at once. Just do one thing, and each week adopt a new thing. And then all of a sudden, like, creating change is like, adopting tiny little habits all the time. And if you read like, the people that talk about, oh, I'm successful, it's like because they've got all these little habits that they stick to every day. And that's how they change their health. And that's how they, improve their lifestyle and improve their how they show up in the world. So, tiny little habits every day.
If you cut up some strawberries or put some blueberries in plain yogurt, the fruit, for me anyway, the fruit, does it. I don't really feel the need.
Fruit does it, exactly.
Add sugar.
The fruit and we want to eat the fruit. Like fruit's good. Like we're not saying that, fruit's not good. Fruit's fantastic, and berries and like things cut up in the, in the yogurt. And if we've got plain yogurt, I mean, the thing that I would suggest that maybe you could add in there, like I like to add in some seeds. On Botanical Kitchen on the website, there's something that's called a super seed mix, which this tray that I've got over here, I had all the things out before that I was talking about, with the sunflower seeds and the pumpkin seeds and, different things like that. Hemp, I think, and something else is in it. There's a recipe on my website where you put it all together in the blender and you blend it up, and then you put it in a jar like this, and then I put it in the fridge. And so, if I'm having my yogurt and my fruit, what I want to add is I want to add some minerals, some fats, some more nutrient density to that, because I'm kind of like having that as a meal, because if I don't, then, I'm going to go like chasing something else in like 45 minutes to an hour and a half. But if I'm actually like, when I eat, I'm like, okay, let me like put all the things together, so I would add nuts or I would add seeds if I'm going to have like yogurt and fruit. Like I like that idea of that balance, that idea of like fat, fiber, and protein. And that seeds have that protein in it, because our protein, helps us feel satiated. And it's also the building block. And like when you're struggling with like regaining mobility and regaining brain function and like, sort of a deep healing journey, you want to really be sure that like the level of protein that you're consuming is good and it is enough. And we often struggle with that. I struggle with that. It's something that I'm like consciously working on. I'm like, oh gosh, what protein am I adding to this? And whether that, it doesn't matter what diet style you use, I think it's always a challenge. And to also add protein with simplicity is another way that you're like, okay, well, I want it to be quick and simple, but I need to add protein. And that's why I love like the super seed mix or adding nuts and, these nuts and seeds that we spoke about early that we put in our smoothie. That's just a really easy way of adding the protein and all the good things.
How do you know if you have a good fat, fiber, protein balance? Or is that too big of a question to ask this late?
It's a big question to ask. Yeah, it's a big question. It's a big question to ask, and I don't think this is like the appropriate time to like even begin addressing that. But I would say the way to, if you've eaten a meal and then you're chasing something else, not so long afterwards, you might want to reevaluate the balance on your plate. And are you eating enough, vegetables? It's like, are you eating, 10 cups of fruit and vegetables a day? Like that's an excellent place to start, with small amounts of whole food fats and protein. We're not talking about pouring olive oil on, we're talking about, nuts and seeds and things like that. So
Maybe we'll get into that another time.
we can.
Anybody else got any?
I got a question for you, Ralph.
Sure.
If you're a vegetarian, do you still eat animal crackers?
No, not really. Not because they're animal crackers, more because they're sugary and they're one of those things that you give 5-year-old kids to get them hooked on sugar. So,
Okay.
They're refined carbohydrates at the very finest, most horrible nutrient hollow level.
I got a funny animal cracker story though for you. It's real brief. So when I was a kid, my dad would hold up the various animal crackers, and I would identify, so I'd say lion, elephant, whatever it was. There was one that we couldn't figure it out, so he called it nondescript. And as a 3-year-old kid, when he held that one up, I would say nondescript.
On the table. Okay.
Not exactly a 3-year-old word.
Nope.
Anyway, so let's thank Karina for that. That was a fabulous presentation. And
Yes, it was, Karina. Thank you so much for coming on. This was absolutely fantastic.
My pleasure.
Incredibly informative. There were things that you told me I didn't even know about.
Good.
That's the goal, right?
And
yes,
you're in the
indeed.
nutrition class.
I know.
Well, it's different. Yeah, we're not talking about things at this level. I've been at this for a long time.
Well, but this is really good because it's really basic, and like I said early on, it's evergreen. It's not going to change. These things are these things and these habits and things that you can develop are going to be good 10 years from now. So
right. And Ralph, where will people be able to find the recipe links and the website and everything from this if they're watching this video?
Okay. What I'll do is I'll get with you, and anything you want, I put it in the description underneath. And typically when I post the video in all the groups, I'll break out I'll take that your bio and all the links, and I'll put that text with it so people can go right there. Unfortunately, YouTube took away the word description. Most people know that you just see a couple lines of text now. It used to say description, which was a lot better, but I try and put it out. I try and make everything easy for people on the basis that they're not going to click, they're not going to figure things out. Just hand it to them on a silver platter like
yes.
like a berry smoothie all ready to go. So, that's what I'll do, and I'll put anything that you want. And like I said, I'll also post it when I post the video tomorrow. I try and do that in about 23 groups. So
fantastic.
And I typically, like tonight, I'll put it up. We'll actually get about 30 views. I got 1,000 subscribers. It'll get about, I typically get them done at night. And then I noticed this thing that what was happening was before I posted it was getting views. So now I make sure I post it before bed and I look in the morning just to see how many of the subscribers have watched it. So
Right.
it'll get.
Well, and is there a way for people to give feedback or ask questions? They can probably do it through the wellness group and the nutrition group.
They can do
correct?
it through the wellness group and nutrition group. They can also
You can
comment.
also reach out to me directly through my social media.
Right. If they comment on the video, I'll either answer the question or get the answer from you, or I think you can tag people on YouTube. I think I can get you.
I know not much about YouTube actually.
I'll figure it
We'll
out.
figure it out. We'll figure it out. So if you have questions, go to botanicalkitchen.com. You can find my Instagram handle. Otherwise, go to our the wellness stroke group and the wellness nutrition group, and you can access me that way. I'm coming back to do another round in 2 weeks. Yes.
Great.
So 2 weeks. This time in 2 weeks, I will.
Just fabulous. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it. I can't tell you how good, how informative it and useful it was.
Right. That's the goal.
Yeah, it is. So we all really appreciate your time, and it'll get out to a lot more than the dozen of us that were here this morning. One Dr. Hessler's videos has about 1,200 views now. That's a fair amount of views. So. And hopefully, some of those people that watch this will come to your website and find out all the other great things you're doing.
Well, the recipes are all there for everything that I spoke about today, and they're free.
Right.
So that's
And
important.
if you give me the links, I'll put whatever you want. I'll put it in there. I'll also post a link to the Wellness After Stroke group that Angelia kind of champions and that you're a member of, and the Nutrition After Stroke group. So, because that's an easy place to find you and interact. Of course, so's your Instagram and your website. So you're fairly accessible. We'll make sure.
I am. That's also.
We'll make sure that people have all of the information that they need to get in touch with you.
Yeah, perfect.
So everybody.
Okay, everybody, well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and as we say, my motto with Botanical Kitchen is "Eat to Thrive."
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karina.